I have so many questions.
Do you want spoilers?
Why are you making such a fuss?
We think you need this.
Really? Tell me everything.
So the last thing I expected was my podcast.
And do you know what I wrote?
I'm throwing a compliment.
The 3 words that summed you up.
Pull to open.
Pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
Noise. All day long, this relentless noise. Tell a good story.
Yeah, well, lucky for you, it's a happy ending.
Hello, good luck, and welcome to Pull to Open, a podcast that investigates all the most random and the most recent appearances of a figure known, ridiculously, as just the Doctor. I'm Chris Taylor, and I'm delighted to say I have a very special guest today, someone who claims to have seen this Doctor very recently, Mr. Pete Pachal. Pete, welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here, Chris. As you know, you and I are both a couple of high-caliber investigative journalists, and the truth is really only something that you can get here on this kind of alternative media that you may have tuned to. I'm really glad you have not, followed all the sheeple and decided to go and get one of those mainstream podcasts. You cannot get the right perspectives from, like the official Doctor Who podcast. Come on, they're not going to give you the truth.
Yeah,
we are truth tellers here on Pull.
The truth is, I'm going to say the truth here because I'm now beyond the bounds of the mainland US. That's how far I had to go to bring you the truth here. The truth is, Doctor Who isn't real, folks. It's a TV show, and we look no further than the latest episode, Lucky Day. We have just seen this. I've seen it a few times because screeners.
Yeah, Mr. Screener over here.
Mr. Screener.
What are you holding over us, Chris? not cool.
I just have to play nice with Disney, okay? It's like I have to get Disney's lip gloss all over my face.
You're the man now, dude. I don't know if we can trust you.
I'm the man on the inside. No, it's okay. You could shoot me in the stairwell. But anyway, we're just coming straight from it. We are having our lucky day right here. Although it may not always seem like it.
Well, I'm not having a lucky day, as you can tell by my voice. Not a conspiracy. No, I'm just it's allergies season, folks. So enjoy the baritone while it lasts.
That's exactly what you said you would say if the deep state ever got to you. I now know.
I am in a deep state.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, God, we've not even got into our commentary yet, but we're going to get there because we're here to give our hot take
we have to.
on. I guess we have to. So I'll launch this hot take of Lucky Day by proposing a formula, an elevator pitch for Lucky Day, and it's this. 73 Yards meets Love and Monsters meets The Runaway Bride, written by the Kablam Man. What do you think, Pete?
I kind of like it, except for 2 things. Love and Monsters should never be mentioned, ever. Speaking of things that have been redacted and should be redacted, that's done. Okay, we'll get there when we get there. But you can see
Love and Monsters.
I guess my bias is now transparent in terms of when we go into that one.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I would say is it's probably the opposite of the Kablam Man. Although I'd have to think about that episode on which side of the political aisle the Kablam Man would have been on. But I remember
just in the sense of written by the Kablam Man. I'm just making a reference to Pete McTighe there.
True, Pete McTighe. He wrote this episode. He's becoming rapidly a go-to guy for certain projects and Doctor Who. Now he's writing episodes and has as far back as Kablam, certainly. And he's done a lot of the things in the DVDs. I don't know if is he becoming the next Mark Gatiss,
maybe.
In terms of just his prolific contributions to the show.
Well, he's writing he's even show running the war between the land and the sea.
Yeah, that's what I was going to logically go there. I don't honestly know enough about the behind the scenes stuff. I should know more. I subscribe to Dr. Max. I just don't read enough of the articles. It's that he seems like he might be being groomed to be the next Russell T Davies.
Well, someone's got to be, and in fact, the lack of a Dauphin is kind of troubling, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Last time this happened, we got Chris Chibnall.
Well, and as we'll get into in the commentary, I think we might need him sooner than later.
Oh boy!
So anyway,
hey, we're going to disagree. Yay! I'm actually getting your take for the first time. We have not discussed a single word about this.
It's true,
but it sounds like you're lining up anti, and I'm going to be pro. In general, I mean, I'm pro with like caveats. I'm sure you're anti with caveats, but bring it on, sir.
Yeah, so lucky day. I mean, this is not a regular thing, so I almost feel like we need to recap the plot a bit, but maybe we don't. Because it's like a couple of different, not again say different adventures. It's just it goes in a couple of different directions before it gets steps fully into what it is.
Right.
And so
it throws you for a loop. There are
a couple of them, because it's like, okay, you have the pre was it was the cold open where it's Belinda and the doctor, and they're down in 2007, and they
meeting the child version of Conrad. Yes,
right. They meet small Conrad, and there's gets the 50 pence. Was it 50
that's
pence
right, 50 p piece. 50 p piece is what you would say. 50 p piece. I'm so sad I did not bring my 50 p piece on vacation. I wish I'd known.
Yeah, and then he gets smacked by his mom, and that's a little trivial. It's interesting to see that kind of thing in 2025, where it takes on a very different tone than I couldn't help but think of the moment in Superman the movie where that mother smacks her daughter, but it's comical, and it's actually even more comical today because it was comical back then. You know, like there's layers of iron, because I watched Superman the movie fairly recently with my kids, and that's like they laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed at that, not because it's like a really funny joke, but because it's so inappropriate today. You know what I mean? Like, and so to do that, obviously it wasn't done as a joke here. I'm not saying that, but I am saying, like, I don't know if they had done enough tone setting for us to sort of get that. And if that is the tone setting, I don't think it really went in the direction it was supposed to. Anyway, it's kind of a detail, but it's an important one. But we do that.
Our commentary is not going in the direction I expected either. But
well, anyway, but like I get this. This is the Love and Monsters thing, where it's like, okay, kid, doctor, and then he sort of spends his life trying to come back to him, but not to meet him. Or I guess to meet him, but to debunk him and debunk the world of Doctor Who. Again, that's the other twist. Because initially it's like, oh, I want to meet him because I have a podcast and I love him, and I'm the guy from Love and Monsters, only better looking. And now that's my thing. And then the twist, of course, in I think it's about halfway through, but whatever it is, where he reveals himself to be this, conspiracy guy, and it's all just, I'm going to debunk this. So initially, I'll stop talking in a second, but I'll just say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Like, not only did you see the TARDIS disappear in front of you, or did he? I can't remember. Actually,
he did. Well, he did. He certainly did the second time. Yeah.
Anyway, he's seen interesting. I forget exactly what the Doctor does actually in 2007. That might have been fantastical, but he's seen that. But he certainly saw it disappear, like dematerialize, and he also saw the dogs with the shriek and stuff. And he's like, I don't see how you can see all that and not believe. But I mean, at the same time, I'm also like, okay, I'm not so dense that I don't get that that's kind of the point. It's just like, it's not, it's just too, I don't know, man. You explain to me why that makes sense. Maybe you could convince me, but I don't get it. And that, by the way, this is just the beginning of my of my criticisms of the episode. But this fundamentally alone is like, how could he become a religious guy? Basically a religious guy that I'm going to debunk this stuff when he's put his hands through the cross bearing like nails, right? Like what are you doing? Like you're already Mary Magdalene. Like, how could you not believe?
Well, all right. A lot of questions there. Let me But let me zero in on that question of like, who is Conrad? What does he really actually believe? I mean, clearly at the end, something that the doctor makes clear, and that, and also, Lethbridge-Stewart younger makes clear is that he's resisting the evidence of his own eyes. He wants to believe that it's a conspiracy. He can resist the evidence of his own eyes. He says to the doctor, "I reject your reality." So this is a guy with a tenuous grip on what reality is, who is clearly an egotist. And would everyone who sees the TARDIS disappear believe it and like want to be on board it and sort of get into conspiracy theories in a pro direction? Or would someone be like, I don't believe it, that Shrike thing was a costume, a guy in costume, and I'm going to prove it, and the TARDIS thing, that was a trick of the light, and I'm going to prove that as well. And he does specifically say, show us your costumes, show us your high tech, which I presume is what he means to explain this disappearing police box, right? All done with mirrors. So that made Conrad believable to me, and I did not see the twist coming. I like that. I think this is what Doctor Who does best is it shuffles the deck, right? Mm. And this is why I'm like, we laid out 73 yards and 11 months Runaway Bride. Put those together, shuffle the elements up, and what you got is like 73 yards. You've got a scene in a pub that kind of doesn't go the way you're expecting. Especially if you've seen the last scene. And even if you've seen the last scene in about 73 yards, which turned out to be a fake out, you're not necessarily expecting this one to be too. 11 Monsters did love it, but you've got to admit that the idea, whether or not we believe in the execution, the idea of an organization like Linda is one that was worth exploring, right? This sort of very meta sense of like, well, hang on, the Doctor Who universe is big enough and it seems to transect with our own reality often enough that, sure there would be a group of people who are trying to find out more, the proof of the existence. And I like the idea that there's an anti-Linda out there. And what would that be? Adnil. And that hasn't been done yet. That seems worth exploring. So I like that they went there.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of unclear at this point what the human race has been through. And I think, there's been so many reboots and the universe being destroyed and big bangs and cracks in time and whatever else that it does essentially the Christmas invasion still count. Like the alien invasions are public. And then, of course, later it was Doomsday and Army of Ghosts and et cetera, et cetera. And then there have been tons, Zygons, name your thing. There's been a bunch. So humans in the 21st century Doctor Who world are very sort of alien aware, or should be. And, I guess they're trying to give a little weight to the idea that, some people just don't believe.
Yeah,
and are because they've hinted at that throughout. Like I remember
they have
Sarah Jane Adventures, even as far back as that, were like, some people don't, and it's more like a narrative device, a convenience, where it's like, I need it to feel more like contemporary Earth for this story, and I need people to be skeptical, so I'm just going to do that. The problem is there's so much that's been established that it's not that it doesn't make sense. So now it's sort of almost like RTD is trying to sort of chalk that up to conspiracy theory type stuff, and then try to tell kind of an interesting story out of it. My problem is it's just not that interesting. And it ends up caricaturing this whole idea of, I'm not just conspiracy theories, but he's obviously making a blatant political statement with this. And it's not his first.
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I want to interrupt right there, because I want to say, I don't think that this is about left versus right. Before we go there, I don't think this is left versus right. What I think this is reality-based versus not reality-based. There's certainly enough not reality-based people on the left as well, right? That's where you have a figure like RFK Jr., completely disavowing vaccines, coming from that tradition on the left, right? So it's that is the divide of our world. That is the divide that Doctor Who has to deal with, has to contend with. And it would be tantamount to shirking its duty, I think, to not deal with it in some way, because there are people out there who just don't believe the evidence of a rise. Look at whether it's like climate change. I mean, it's just climate change is so obvious now, but there are people out there who will still say it's not real. Like there are still flat earthers. And I think that a lot of us have been shaken recently as just the extent to which this denial goes, right? In one form or another. We can talk about specific instances.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's the sort of the dividing line of our times, increasingly so.
Somewhat, but I get your point. It's Doctor Who. It's arguably politically neutral, but it's also like it's knowing when this was written, knowing like just how it's coded. I mean, just particularly like you just look. I'm trying to pick the least controversial thing, and there isn't one, but I'll just go with COVID, which is to say like
Sure.
how that sort of played out between the left and the right. And who was sort of coded as what in this scenario? I mean, the right was so dismissed as conspiracy loons a lot of the time, and the left was sort of like the supporting the authority figures, right? And that seems to be what this again. Maybe he didn't mean it to come across that way. I think he did, like in the sense that, like,
but again, I don't think that's left field right. I think there's so many Democrats who watched Plandemic on YouTube or whatever. Like, I think that it's a different. Things seem like they're realigning.
But Democrats were like in charge at the time,
Sure.
And it was a very much left versus right. Ended up, it shouldn't have been. I'm not saying it should have been. I'm just saying that's sort of how it played out. And he seems to be taking this as I believe he's putting it out as a blatant political statement. Whether he and I think it's not. It's, you look at what he's done throughout his run, and it's been. I'm thinking about 2.0, right? But this is probably like he certainly had political stuff in it, and now this seems to be like the most blatant version of it.
I don't know. I mean, okay, I will say this is pro-government, right?
Right.
It's
obviously,
and it's anti-reality and pro like large group that binds us together and keeps us safe, right? Which is something we had to look at about UNIT from the start. That hasn't really been looked at. We haven't actually voiced very much in Doctor Who that sort of suspicion of UNIT, a healthy suspicion, I would say, that would exist and could be used, especially in the sort of modern media environment to quote unquote expose UNIT, right? Why haven't they been subject to that before?
I actually don't mind the idea. I just think maybe. Like he went all the way with the caricature, and this is sort of a danger that RTD has been doing, honestly, particularly in this season. I think back to the Robot Revolution and just how everything was a caricature, and like even going all the way to Alan and whatever else. There's nothing really explored. There's no subtlety. There's no nuance, and that's certainly the case here. Whereas there could be a pretty good version of this story where the think tank people are less extreme and you can kind of see, oh, actually they kind of have a point, as opposed to occasionally having a funny joke where the guy says, oh, your special effects are improving at the end, which was the kind of
which
like I liked it. I actually did like that line too. It's a little self-congratulations almost for that.
Exactly. It's meta. We're in the middle of the most meta Doctor Who season
That's true.
ever. Right,
which is why I think the idea was it's okay. It's just like, did you have to keep hitting us over with this guy is so bad and so evil, or just so misguided that he's too far gone? And then the doctor almost comes out of the TV at the end there to lecture him. With all this coded language. I mean, he uses the word that I think has been overused the most in all political discourse, which is weaponized. I can't stand that word anymore. And this is where I would go, honestly, with the whole thing I mentioned earlier, where, I didn't hate this episode to the extent I hated like the Sarangaka run number and other things, but I can see why now, and this is my theory, like why Disney's probably pulling out. To be honest with you, it's kind of like looking at this, like, and again, I to be clear, I have no inside information. I'm just going by the rumors and stuff and what's been sort of said if you read between the lines on sort of things Russell T Davies has written and stuff, it sort of seems like it might not be renewed at the end of season 2. But like if Disney saw sort of this set of episodes, particularly this one, and is all like, and you think about when they're reviewing them, like probably even before the election or around that time, like, I mean, it's like, really, we're doing this now when we're just doing these blatantly sort of progressive messaging at a time where that sort of seems to be
I disagree with you. I gotta say, I may disagree with you more than anything I've disagreed with on this. This is not a progressive message. This is truth-based. This is about truth versus lies. And we don't have to use the word weaponized, but lies are being weaponized. The Doctor also used the words misinformation, which we are awash in. In fact, many of us have just given up the struggle. We just assume that most of what's out there on the internet is misinformation. And there were, first of all, and another thing I'll say, like, let's not harp on RTD too much here. This is Pete McTighe's baby, this story. So we don't have to fit it into the framework of the whole season. But it's, one little detail I'll pull out, the fact that Trinity Wells, the American newscaster, now appears to be, I guess, working for some conspiracy theory, or Newsmax,
or probably News Nation or whatever it is, Newsmax, whatever
it is, But I like that sort of like Trinity Wells. Oh no, what happened to you? Like we thought we could trust you, we thought we could rely on you, and they're all falling for this guy's story because he knows how to manipulate the media. And we are in this world where things are realigning. That's why I really don't want to talk about left, right, progressive, conservative, whatever. Like there are Republicans in the reality community, there are Democrats in the non-reality
but like you said earlier,
right?
it's pro-government, right? Like it's like trust the government, trust what they tell you. I don't think that's a great message, to be honest with you. Like, I mean,
but you have to. I mean, it's saying trust unit. It's not necessarily. Right. It's saying that unit can look this way, but actually there's this other way. Yeah, so maybe you could say it's pro-deep state. But what else has unit always been but the deep state? So either we erase unit from Doctor Who altogether and say, well, we're not going to do that going forward, or you have to explore its very nature as a government entity. And by the way, I like that one of the dangling threads is that Geneva is very much not happy with Kate now.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I don't know, man. I really just feel like it was very coded and very preachy. I would say like clearly preachy. The Doctor's like preaching at the end, but I do think this kind of thing can be handled fairly well. And I would point to Captain America Civil War as a pretty good sort of way to have something that feels like a political conflict, but it's given stakes and personal resonance. And even though that's a little bit manufactured in the Marvel universe, I think that's a better way to handle something like this rather than I don't know, just whatever he did here.
Well, I think okay, imagine yourself as a let's think ourselves into being a Republican watching this. Like Republicans are in favor of like the military and an organization like UNIT, if there is really a threat, would be as much a Republican issue as a Democratic issue, right? So, and there are Republicans who are horrified at the sort of the blatant anti-truth, the blatant misinformation that is going around these days. Supposedly in their name. A lot of, so again, not left, right.
I mean, I'm not trying to, no, I'm not trying to like code it so much that way and like imagining this or that. I mean, whatever your politics is, I'd be curious to know what you thought of it if you're on the right or the left. But I do think it's daring us to sort of take that side and, I don't know. Like it just felt like it was throwing half the audience under the bus more than I ever have thought in a lot of episodes. Even though there's been a lot of stuff coded left, and that's obviously Russell Davies has been very clear about his politics, and he's been very clear that he and I get that Pete McTighe's in it, but he's the showrunner.
Right, sure. It's Pete McTighe on the evidence of Kablam, which was a very sort of pro-worker narrative. But again, who's not pro-worker? Come on, like we're journalists. We're supposed to stand up for truth. We have to take the side of truth against
absolutely
weaponized misinformation.
Stop using that word.
Sorry. Misinformation that's been cleverly crafted and
it's all about, it's kind of like the predetermined narrative and then bending the reality to it. And yes, 100% left does that all the time. Right does that all the time. It's a problem.
Yeah. And it's a problem that's exacerbated by technology, right? Because, I mean, look at YouTube. Love you, YouTube. But there have been studies that shown that more extreme content gets the clicks, left and right. More extreme content gets the clicks. So society increasingly is being bifurcated by technology into extremes. Yeah. And I think Doctor Who is actually taking a centrist position here and just saying,
I would just love to find things we can agree about. If he did something like this with the coding in the other direction, I would think it would be, I would have loved him to challenge himself that way. Like, for example, like maybe do something along the lines of a cancel culture thing, where the cancel culture people are caricatured in the same way that Conrad was, and they're not listening to the nuance or whatever. And it's just there's no forgiveness, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. That would, if he had challenged himself to do that, I would have been, oh, okay, interesting. That would have makes you think, and you could arguably do the same thing. So why not do something like that? Why is it all coded in the direction you would predict from someone who's progressive?
I think you're seeing a lot of the coding in your own layer, your own filter you're applying to this. Having just watched it again, I'm looking at like, oh, that's interesting. It's really kind of leaning not on his politics, but on his followers. He had, I think they say at one point, 80,000 page followers. Like he has to be extreme to create content for his followers. And yes, he's kind of self-aggrandizing. And Ruby says at one point, it's about your ego. It's about grandstanding. Now, the online culture of today rewards grandstanding, right? And,
but where is most of the grandstanding concentrated right now?
It's both sides. Both sides.
I don't think that's true. The podcast election has the manosphere and all that stuff. There's been a lot of stuff made of like, why doesn't the left have someone like a Joe Rogan or whatever, right? I just it was just blatant to me. I don't know. I think we've kind of exhausted this aspect of the argument. I do want to talk about other aspects of the episode.
It's interesting. I want to say that it's interesting that this is the least standalone that I think we've seen, because first of all, we see why, like, Ruby is a chess piece who needs to be taken off the map apparently, and we see what takes her off the map. She's got to go away. She's so disillusioned after this. And poor Ruby. I mean, whatever you think of the episode, my heart really went out to her, because like she really liked this guy.
Yeah, and she was really betrayed. Really, I mean, we like Ruby. I really like Ruby. I like Millie Gibson. Obviously the episode, that's how it gets you to really hate Conrad. I mean, like, how could you do that to her? And
right.
Also, he's like making fun of her, like, with the lip gloss and all this stuff. Like, hey, Ruby's good looking. Okay, what are you doing saying that was a chore to date Ruby? You were privileged. Okay, dude.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We found agreement. Fantastic! Yay, Ruby Sunday. I like the check in with Ruby. I like seeing why that she's doing that typical companion thing of like wanting more of the Doctor without wanting, without trying to want more of the Doctor. Right? Very, very common situation that we've seen. And then we see, like, this is why I bring up the Runaway Bride. Like, this was Donna's fate in The Runaway Bride, to be betrayed by the man she thought she loved, who has that whole, text me about Angelina, blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of played for a bit more comedy, but you could play that as absolute tragedy, which is sort of how I think they're playing it here. So I like that. And then I like that this is, there's a little throwaway line, but like, this is how the Doctor first hears about Belinda Chandra.
Yeah.
Courtesy of Conrad. So, it's doing some of the work of the season arc there in a way that doesn't feel shoehorned in, right? It feels earned by this episode.
It's so bizarre. Like, again, maybe he believes and he's just doing the thing. Maybe that's the whole point. He's just doing it. But he's asking him, have you met Belinda Chandra yet? So you're basically admitting time travel's real. Like, with that one line. Yeah. Clearly. and this thing, like, so he knows it's all real.
Which is more for the theory that he's grandstanding. He's driven by his ego.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. I get that's the point. I just, it seems just so nuts, like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive about people online, and it just didn't work for me. But okay, so seeing the links, seeing Unit again, seeing that the Kate is clearly involved with what's his name, which they they more than hinted at. That's ongoing. So that was all kind of cool.
Kate pushing her own disinformation there, saying that she's working alone.
Yeah, I got and the Shriek was kind of like one of these sort of forgettable monsters with sort of a gimmicky thing it does with the hunt. So I kind of
liked. I had to go back to the trailer because I had my own sort of like fake news moment of like, did they insert a line in the trailer that makes you think that the Doctor's talking to Ruby about like pheromones? You remember that line? Well, he is, but it's old Ruby. I really like, by the way, that the fact that they locate it at like right after the Devil's Court, like we are immediately located in time.
Beatles.
Yeah. And John Lennon owes Ruby a guitar lesson. So if you're listening, Mr. Lennon, a piano lesson, that's it. If you're listening, Mr. Lennon, and I don't for 1 minute believe those conspiracy theories that say you were shot in 1980, time to put up or shut up with Miss Sunday.
Yeah. And it seems pretty clear, I guess she's one and done. Like she's not like she's rejoining Team TARDIS. This is it. Maybe she'll come back for the season finale or something, but
got to come back for the finale. I feel like this is definitely leading up to something. And let me guess, you hated Mrs. Flood.
No, that again, she's not worth hating anymore unless she does something really dumb. She just kind of came in and I'm going to let the guy out. And I've never been, not never been, but I was not enthused that he was coming out. Like he's not even a guy you love to hate. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to see him again. Like I just, you're bad. It's not like delightful bad, like the way the Master can be, and these other folks. Like you're not on some evil level. If I was evil, I'd be rooting for him. No, you're just a loser.
Yeah,
you can't even see what's in front of you, and you're. I don't know. I was not enthused that he was being let out. I do not want to see him again, even if he might be in the finale.
Yes, feel free to comment, by the way, comment below, YouTube people, on if he reminded you of any particular creators on YouTube. Let us know. We want to hear what your analogy is. But yeah, he's coming out. So
I'm sure it'll be even split between left and right, Chris.
Well, who knows? I mean, what even is Logan Paul, who even knows? Like, it's reality and common sense versus not. Anyway,
a bunch of stuff that stretch credulity with like the weapons and stuff. He comes in with a rifle and they're not shooting him. And I guess I get what Kate's trying to do, which makes sense.
She's using the weapon of media, social media against him.
Yeah. So it's like if they just shoot him, he wouldn't be. He wins. But. Still, it's dangerous. Like, what are you doing? Like,
well, as she says, it's a good thing the Doctor's not here because, as she said, the Doctor would have shut that down immediately. He wouldn't have let Kate do what she's doing to Conrad. No. We get a little glimpse of what Unit is like without the Doctor, which I think we're going to have to see. Like, this is very definitely leading into some aspects of the war between the land and the sea.
I did like that the Doctor wasn't in it. I didn't like that he was in it then at the end, and he sort of like adopts this sort of overseer role of materializing around him. Like even putting aside the political speech, it's like I would have been better if he just wasn't there. I don't, because it gives him a little too much. I don't know, like not a power or something. Like it's just like he's got to be fallible, right? He can't just be like, oh, I know everything that's going on in Ruby's life, even though I'm not here anymore, and I'm keeping an eye on her. And I'm
you do have to headcanon why he appeared. Yeah, you have to headcanon that he got, and it would have been the work of a line to throw it in. Yeah, absolutely. I
would have liked it instead of just snapping his fingers if he pulled out the memory worm. That would have been neat. I would have liked that little thing because then it would make more sense how he's suddenly like in an instant just back in his cell.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, something like that. I like that idea. I wanted to say something about Mrs. Flood, and it's a response to really our ongoing conversation about Mrs. Flood. We started this last week. You were saying, you're not really a fan of it because it seems like a retread of Susan Twist.
Right.
But again, I think there's a twist. I think it's Doctor Who shuffling the deck. I think it's sort of mixing that with a little bit more Missy, which I think we would judge a successful version of this, right? Older,
I guess Missy was
crazy woman appears at the end of every story, and we're slowly pieced together, like, what the hell is going on there? But we still don't get the reveal of who she is. That's exactly coming here. And also, I think a very interesting thing to note is where she says she's the governor. And you hear this sort of locking and clinking sound. I think we're very much supposed to pay attention to the governor line. She may be the god to end all gods in the pantheon, whatever RTD has decided that's going to be. But I kind of
governor basically
like
the same thing as warden in the UK, or no?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so interesting. The governor, huh?
The governor. So yes, get your head cannons ablazing on that one.
Governor. Is there any governors in like Doctor Who?
It's Mavic Chen calling it now. No, it's not Mavic Chen.
Maybe she's a future doctor, because the governor in The Walking Dead was played by David Morrissey, who was in the next Doctor.
Wow! Look at you connecting the dots.
You heard it here first. Oh yeah, it's truth. It's absolute truth.
Connecting the dots. I think you need to have a cigarette in your mouth and a lot of red wool behind you, connecting the dots. Yeah. Okay. So, there's our hot take.
It's our hot take.
That we aired some healthy disagreement there. Do let us know what you thought, dear listeners, and
please do.
You can comment below while Pete gives you the rundown on all of the other things you can do for us.
You can also follow us. We're a podcast. That's a great thing to do for podcasts. You can, of course, leave a review in the Apple Podcast app. That's about the best thing you can do for a podcast, other than sharing the podcast with a friend. Follow us on social. We are at Pull to Open or Pull to Open 63 on most of the major networks, especially TikTok. We upload videos there all the time. Pull to Open.
That's right. Shout out to TikTok for giving us a big boost on that Mr. Ring-a-Ding TikTok that's just taken off like Mr. Ring-a-Ding.
Our most popular TikTok video ever. Thank you, Mr. Ring-a-Ding. Good times. Check all that stuff out. Drop us a line. Tell us how we're awesome or completely wrong or don't understand Doctor Who at all. You'd be wrong, though, because this is the Truth Podcast. This is the only place you get it. The real deal.
That's right. The real deal. We'll go back to being the random deal very shortly at the end of this season. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, tell us what you thought. Tell us who Miss Flood is and why we're wrong. And we will see you next time.
Take care, folks.